Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Masterclass Episode 8, a show where we play, we strategize, and we explore the game of Hearthstone. Tonight we have a very special episode with a special guest. That's Admirable. We'll be going over some tournament strategy, and with me, as always, is my co-host Tarn. Tarn, how's it going?
It's going fantastic. Looking forward to another great show. And that's all I got to say.
Great. So as you can see on
it's under the rope.
Yeah, absolutely. As you can see here, we're going to do some tournament prep with our guest, looking at the warrior deck, some matchups, the deck order. Then we're going to do a little discussion on That's Admirable's article on iHeartU and the guest interview, and then we're going to do a little more customs and with analysis for the tournament. But as always, we begin with a warm-up. All right. Let's warm it up. I'm picking my...
I was told you actually have a warm-up deck.
I've got a warm-up deck.
Someone said you got one to warm up with today.
I do. It's all true. It's all true. Okay, here we go.
Let's do it.
You know what? I think I'm just going to play my main again. Forget this.
I'm sure you will. I'm sure you will.
So did you have a good weekend?
I did. Had a great weekend, actually. It was pretty fun. A friend from out of town was in town, so we grabbed some lunch. And, yeah, spent the day with the family yesterday. All
nice.
Good stuff.
Very nice. Cool.
Yourself?
All right. Yeah, I had a good weekend. Really busy, but a lot of fun. Building furniture in my apartment, which is not particularly fun, but had a couple friends' birthdays. So it was a good weekend all in all.
Oh, furniture. IKEA for the win. Oh, Warlock. Oh, look at you. Of course.
That's what we do, man.
I should have guessed.
You wanted a fun deck.
Did you do Murlocs? Okay, no. All right. Maybe not. Maybe not. I wouldn't put it against you or put it past you.
Oh, yeah.
Look at that. Look at that starting hand.
Oh yeah. There's nothing nothing but crap in here. Just all bullshit. So for the viewers out there,
you're gonna have to pick up the pace.
What are you talking? Oh no, there must be a stream delay.
A stream delay, huh?
Mm-hmm. So for those of you out there who are wondering what tournament I was talking about, there's a Razer-sponsored sort of mini invitational tournament going on this weekend, and 16 streamers were invited, and I'll be participating in the tournament. So should be a lot of fun. All right.
Oh God, I will not. I will not.
Ooh, ooh.
Ooh. That knife did not juggle.
It didn't.
That knife did not juggle. All right. Oh man. Impressive. All right.
Oh, look at you. Little backstab. Get rid of that guy. I like it. Ooh, I really like this.
Got a backstab.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. Hanging in there. 7 life. We got this. I feel this is the week. that I take the warm up. I can feel it. Uh-oh. Alright, I'm okay. Here we go. Here we go.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
You gotta trust that cove. Trust that pirate's cove. What do you got? What do you got?
We must cleanse the Sunwell.
Oh. That's what,
Oh.
that's what I got. Little shadow flame.
My hopes and dreams. My hopes and dreams. They're crushed.
Yeah.
They're crushed. It's
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
We got a sprint to finish. Oh. 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 So close. That's right. I used that poison for one swing.
Good. Well, I'm shit out of luck because I only have 2 health, so I pretty much can't play most of my cards. I can't play most of my cards. Nice.
I quit. All right, the show's over, folks. I want to warm up. We're just gonna leave right now.
Yep. That is it. That is the last you will ever see of Masterclass. It's over. Nicely done. Nicely done.
The show's been canceled. The show's been canceled.
All right.
I
Well,
don't have the button here. I'm a noob. Yeah, it doesn't work. It's not the same.
Cool. So, in just a second, we're going to bring on our guest. That's Admirable. So, just want to talk a little bit about that tournament. So, let's see if we can get him ready here. Yes. So, to tell you a little bit about him, as we bring him on. Here we go. Now he's on screen. How's it going? That's Admirable. Welcome to the show.
Hey, what's going on? Thanks for having me.
Yeah. And for those of you who don't know, That's Admirable is a Hearthstone player, rank legend. He's also a contributor on iHearthU, and he's a Star Cities Game Legacy Open winner, which is a Magic the Gathering tournament, and you can find his stream on Twitch TV or twitch.tv/That's Admirable. We're going to be calling him Admirable or Adme or any variation of those as he's on tonight. So again, thanks for coming on, and we're going to talk a little bit about this new tournament. So I'm gonna throw it up on screen down here, and as you can see, this is HearthstonePlayers.com, and it's sponsored by Team Razor. It's an invitational tournament, and so basically it's this Saturday, February 1st at 1 p.m. EST. That's Eastern Time, and the prize is some mice and mouse pads and such. And the participants, including myself, Savages, Kingski Win, and so on and so forth, Jab. And the tournament format will be single elimination. Each participant has 3 decks, best of 5 games. The winner uses the same deck, while the loser chooses a new deck. And then he continues till he's lost all 3 decks. And as we said, it's single elimination, so as you move forward, if you win, you can eventually get to the finals. And so what we're going to focus on tonight, which That's Admirable, has a lot of knowledge and time and experience with the Warrior deck. And that's something that I've been spending a little bit of time on. So I thought maybe we'd begin by hearing his thoughts on the tournament structure and the Warrior deck in general, and then we can sort of move on to some other stuff. So, yeah.
Well, I like the tournament structure a lot. I think that best of 5 single deck is probably going to be the format that ends up picking up in popularity for 2 major reasons. The first one is that it's because it's so much more unique and different than it is to other card games. In other card games, you typically you play a game, and then if it's available, you have sideboard.
Right.
But this game doesn't work that way because there's a ladder system. So with the ladder system in place, you're just playing single games against everyone. A sideboard becomes much less relevant.
Mm-hmm.
So for tournament structure, it's a lot less interesting to watch games that have sideboards, because when you're watching people play on ladder, you want to be watching people who have decks that are relevant to what you could be playing. So, for instance, say you were playing a best of 3 as warrior only with a warrior sideboard, that's inherently much less interesting because your deck building will change based on how you can sideboard against other people in a tournament. That's not only less interesting to the viewers, but it's also less relevant to the actual game system itself. And I feel like that's sort of like would be a contradicting function to be putting into a tournament. That being said, the 3-deck format I think is going to continue to be the popular one, and it also supports a team format the best.
Yeah.
Say if you wanted to have like a 3v3 tournament.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I hadn't thought of it exactly that way, but that's really interesting. Tarn, what do you think?
Yeah, I like it a lot. I like having that format, giving your decks more than one chance, and really giving it the opportunity to see both players' decks develop against each other before moving on. Cool.
So we're going to continue this discussion, but as we do on Masterclass, we're going to play a customs game in the background. And since we're going to be talking about the Warrior matchup, we talked a little bit to Admirable about what was a good matchup to sort of keep in mind, think about, and practice. And his recommendation was a Druid. So I'm going to play Tarn as me as the Warrior and him as the Druid. And so I'll have my deck up here on the left, and you can see my Warrior deck. Admirable, you're sort of familiar with this one. I've seen you use it with one or two small exceptions. What are your thoughts on this deck as it matches up versus a Druid, and maybe things you might want to watch out for, the overall strategy, maybe mulliganing options?
Yeah, the mulligan options will be a lot easier once I actually see your opening hand.
Sure.
It's a lot easier for me to explain it at that point. As far as your build is concerned, I think we talked about this a little bit earlier. You actually don't have a Gromish.
Yes.
I think if you don't have a Gromish, that ironically Leroy Jenkins is the best replacement. I think it's funny that a legendary is your best replacement for a legendary.
Yeah.
Even though it's a neutral legendary. I think if I didn't have either of those, though, probably a second Gore Howl or even something like a Sunwalker might be a better replacement, and just strictly going with sort of a defensive standpoint for it. As far as this opening hand is concerned, Acolyte of Pain obviously is extremely strong.
Yeah.
You want to be mulliganing to your effects that draw extra cards or that effectively draw extra cards. So if in this instance, and against pretty much every matchup, Slam and Fiery War Axe are really good, as well as Acolyte of Pain. And if you have Acolyte of Pain, the cards that enable him, like Inner Rage and Cruel Taskmaster, become a lot better as well. But that being said, unless I was playing against something aggressive, I would likely mulligan Cruel Taskmasters and Inner Rages as well.
Okay. And the Earthen Ring Farseer seems like a more of a mid-ish to late-ish game. I would probably tend to mulligan that. Do you agree?
Yeah, I would be mulliganing Earthen Ring Farseer, unless I was against an extremely aggressive matchup, where its value increases a lot. Not only for its board presence, but for the health restore.
Sure. And
so you can make an argument for keeping it because you have an Acolyte of Pain. That could be an interesting combo, but I would likely mulligan it just to try to get the most value out of my other effects. Sure.
So I'm going to sort of pass my first turn, and Tarn's going to start to continue. What would you say is the overall goal to for a Warrior? Let's assume I have the Gromish. Let's assume I've got the full deck with the ability to Alex Straza into Gromish on 2 turns and finish him off. What do you feel like is the overall strategy you're going for here versus a typical Druid deck?
Well, versus any deck, your goal is to stabilize the board. It does an extremely good job at doing that because of the way that armor works. Armor will put you above 30 life, and other classes don't actually have access to that sort of thing. Like Druid has a little bit of access to armor, but it's sort of more of a mitigation effect than it is like an actual armor building effect. So your number one goal is to stabilize and to not use too many cards, and to save your cards that combo well with other cards to make sure that you enable them later on so that they're never dead draws. Your main goal is liberal conservation, if that makes any sense at all, where you want to be conserving your effects, but you want to be using them where you could be using them. So, for instance, your armor right here, I really agree with that.
Yeah.
Like slamming, for instance, wouldn't make any difference to the game.
Right.
You still drop to 30 life. And Acolyte, you actually want him to have that out for Acolyte of Pain.
Yeah. Totally. And he's what you'll see shortly is he's chosen to Wrath my Acolyte after bringing out a second Loot Hoarder. So I am a little bit on the back foot here, but I did draw a Fiery War Axe. So I do have the opportunity to slam one and Fiery War Axe the other, or Fiery War Axe one and armor up again. And that might still be the best play here, without a lot of other early plays.
I would agree. Armoring up is certainly a play you want to be maximizing, because every single time you don't use it as an opportunity cost. Like, you can continue to hold Slam until you need it. Like, Slam Execute's a really great combo.
What's an
And
ideal...
obviously, you don't want to be wasting...
Go ahead, no, please. If you ever hear me interrupt, I'll stop, because there's a bit of a delay, so you always please continue.
Sure. Okay, one of the main things to keep in mind, this is pretty much for almost every single game, is that holding on to shield blocks becomes extremely key, because you want to be able to enable your shield slams as you draw them.
Yes. Yes.
So a lot of people, the most common question I'm always asked is, why didn't you shield block? And that is almost always the answer.
Okay.
There's a few times it's not, but it's something that you want to keep in mind.
Yeah. Now, I have the opportunity here to armor up and shield block and take out his minion, and that would effectively not hurt my shield block, and that would allow me to draw a card. And with 9, 8, 7, and 6 drops, it seems like that might be an okay position, because I'm not shield blocking to protect myself. I'm just shield blocking to card draw. Would you disagree with that based on what you just said, or would you think that that's okay?
This is where your most critical turn probably comes in.
Okay, let's talk about it.
That. Obviously, the first thing you're going to be doing is attacking.
Yeah.
We're going to be using our axe to clear his last guy. That's important. So at this point, you have to weigh what the likelihood of going 6, 7, 8, 9 actually is going to be. Like, Ragnaros, well, a lot of times will stay in your hand to follow up on Alexstrasza, because Ragnaros' hit to the face loses a little bit of value if you play Alexstrasza the following turn.
Okay.
And then there's also a very minor threat of your armor getting shredded, but I wouldn't worry about it right now. Having 7 armor is going to be pretty tough.
Yeah.
I think I would agree with your analysis.
Okay.
It's a little bit difficult to use the shield block at a future point, and you're not losing a lot of value by him saying, like, playing a Druid Claw in charge form or something like that.
So your shield block you're implying that don't use it to protect yourself. Let your health go down, right?
Yes, your health should be one of the major resources you use. As long as you can keep the board stabilized, you usually can climb out of those sorts of situations.
And actually, I just made a critical error there.
In this situation, I agree with you.
I used the shield block and I drew Nat Pagal, and I should not have armored up. I kind of did that without thinking, assuming I wouldn't draw a 2-drop. So I think I should have put Nat Pagal down on the board, but I think that's pretty obvious.
Actually, I would have.
You wouldn't have?
I actually would have armored here as well.
Yeah, huh.
I think the armoring's better, again, because of the threat of Druid of the Claw. Like, if he plays Druid of the Claw in charge mode, he'll shred your armor down to 3, but if you played Nat Pagal, it would have shredded it down to 1.
Oh.
So, you would have to use Slam, Armor Up, and Shield Slam. Whereas next turn, you would just be able to Armor Up and then Shield Slam, and then save your Slam for when you draw, like, an Execute.
Okay, and thank you, Tarn. That's exactly what happened, and I have that exact opportunity. So, that being said, I also have another shield block, which I think, based on what you're saying, I will save that one. So I'm going to Armor Up, bring out Nat Pagal, and Shield Slam his minion. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, it looks about right, because now our curve's been disrupted, so
actually
we had a plan in mind, which was really good.
You know what I can do instead of armoring up? I can use my Slam, which does the same thing but draws an additional card. Or would you like to save that for your Acolytes?
I think I would keep the Slam.
Where do you like...
I would like to save the Slam because it enables Execute.
It enables Execute.
So, like, it looks to me like...
Can you describe to me...
It looks to me like you Armor Up, Shield Slam, and play that Bagel.
So what do you mean by...
Execute's going to destroy a damaged minion.
Oh, okay,
So, like, say he plays a Ysera or something.
Yeah.
You get to follow up on Ysera by playing Slam and Execute, as opposed to having to find an alternative way to deal it damage.
Okay. And did you say finish
like,
off...
You don't necessarily need a dip.
Okay. That's really interesting. So, basically, when you're late game versus Druid, where you're not playing a hero with a lot of small minions, you're saving these low-cost, minor damage dealing to combo. That's really smart. Okay. Really good call.
Yeah, and then that Pagal for sure would come down here.
Yeah.
You have Shield Block 4 your next Shield Slam.
Yeah.
But this is sort of kind of the situation where a lot of people will tend to use Shield Block just because it draws a card. But this is a good situation to save it, because if your armor gets shredded and then you draw Shield Slam, you drew a dead card.
Yeah. And unfortunately, he dropped Ragnaros, and that hit me, removing my armor. So I'm in a tricky position because I don't have the slam and the armor to get rid of him. But I can bring out Sylvanas, which if he gets hit by Rag, I'll take his Rag. So this is an interesting situation.
Yeah, Sylvanas is definitely the play here.
Okay. And then ultimately, if that... Okay, I'm going to play that out, and we can talk about it moving forward. If the Sylvanas gets silenced or removed or what have you, next turn would I want to Ragnaros or...
I think it depends on what Ragnaros hits after that. Like, say Ragnaros hits the Nat Pagel, I think you could make an argument for trying to kill the Ragnaros with your own Ragnaros. But let's say that Sylvanas gets silenced and he hits the Sylvanas with Ragnaros.
Yep.
You probably have to kill Ragnaros there. You don't really have
This is hysterical. I love how you're throwing out these say that's, these sort of these hypotheticals, and it's literally happening on my screen as you say it. It's pretty great. So, okay. So, I'm going to... Yeah, I think I'm going to have to... Let me see. I did get an execute, so actually now I'm going to slam and execute. And that'll leave me 5 mana.
That seems like definitely the right play.
I think 5 mana left, which I could shield block and armor up on top of that. Or I could Cruel Taskmaster my Nat Pagel, which doesn't seem to make too much sense.
No, I think it depends on what you draw, largely. So
Yeah.
I would leave the slam and then reevaluate.
Yeah.
With the intention of executing.
Okay. I did get a Cleave, deal 2 damage to minions. So I would... Yeah, alright, I'm going to execute...
Maybe just save Cleave here.
Yeah, I'm going to execute Rag. And then with 5 left, shield block and armor up.
I'm not sure you need to shield block still. I mean, it might be a good position to use it. You are getting a little bit low.
Well,
and you only have 1 shield slam left.
Yeah, let's talk it
And
through.
it looks like the game will end before the relevance of shield slam comes in. So execute certainly happens. You also might draw something relevant, like an Acolyte of Pain or something. I would definitely shield block here first.
Yeah.
Because you don't have another play on 5 mana. It'd be awful to waste 3 mana at this point. So I would sacrifice the idea of shield slam being a valuable card and just go ahead and draw.
I got a shield slam again. I mean, a slam again, and I could slam his minion for 2, leaving it at 2, but I know what that does to me, so I think I'll just armor up.
I actually would play Cruel Taskmaster, and I would go ahead and hit him for 2 with Nat Pagel. Just
Really?
to clear that 2 armor out of the way, to make sure that doesn't become like a pesky amount of damage. And then that also provides 2 effects for you in that we pretty much know what our turn 9 is going to be just by looking at your hand. It'd be difficult to draw better cards than that. And then you also have 4 points of damage on the board. And then with Slam and Cleave, and with the Gore Howl, you actually might be able to take out some.
That's interesting.
Minions.
But by bringing my minion down to 2 health, Nat Pagel, he'll be able to finish him off with Keeper of the Grove, which you're fine with at this point.
Oh, well, it's going to take Pagel down to 3 health. It's going to deal him 1 damage.
Oh, it's 1 damage plus 2 attack. Alright. We're moving real fast here. Awesome. Cool. Yeah, even as fast as we're moving, I'm really learning, like, a lot of how to play this matchup much better. So, boy, do I wish we could do this for a few hours instead of just 1 or 2 games. But thank you so much anyways. It's really great. Okay. So, while Tarn's going, do you want to talk a little bit about how you see the Warrior matching up, what heroes it's good against and what heroes it's not good against? This deck?
Well, one of the reasons I think it's powerful, originally anyway, was because of its ability to combat Druid. Druid was a really heavy board control grindy deck, and as of late, the Druid decks have kind of been shifting over towards Force of Nature and Savage Roar. So they're trying to actually establish an aggressive board control position and pressure you out of the game, as opposed to their traditional style, which is just kind of eventually get an overwhelming advantage. So some of the Warrior decks tend to be evolving a little bit, but this is still pretty much the core build. And this particular build, against the traditional Druid decks, was a great matchup. It was very difficult to beat them. I think you have a very easy turn 9 here. I don't really think there's any question about it.
What would you do? Rag or Alexstrasza?
I would Alexstrasza him down to 15 life.
Well, my thought process was
9 mana, 8/8.
the one thing I was thinking was the Gorehowl, but I guess when you have the Gromish, you want to save the Gorehowl at 7 damage, right? That's sort of the idea.
Sometimes, yeah. I think there's more value out of the Alexstrasza. He has to have an answer to it, or he's probably just going to die. And that's always a good position to be putting yourself in. Like, if he has Big Game Hunter, it's not really that big of a liability because you have the Cleave in your hand. And you can play Cleave and actually follow up with Ragnaros. And then he has to deal with the Ragnaros as well. So, after you've cleaved and then cleared out the rest of his stuff and you have Ragnaros in play, the Gorehowl will threaten lethal at that point. So this is sort of like a 3-turn setup.
Okay, it's a 3-turn setup, so it's...
Right.
I see. Okay, so
if he doesn't have an immediate answer for Alexstrasza, he's likely just dead.
Yeah, he did actually use a Pyro and a Swipe and a Blood Mage to get rid of him, so that was a really strong way to do it without taking any damage. So, I have 10. I can get rid of the Pyro with my Slam and bring out Rag, making sure that the 8 damage will hit the hero. And I also have a Fiery War Axe and the Gorehowl.
I would actually drop the Fiery War Axe here, I think, and punch the... Maybe that's wrong, because I'd like to be able to save the Slam for an Execute if I need to.
No, I see what you're saying. No, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I like it. I like that. I didn't think that. I thought that was a 3 mana cost, but I agree with you on that. Clear the board.
I think it's a little bit risky. Like if he had Force of Nature, Savage Roar, Claw, you actually die.
Okay.
But I think it's worth the risk.
Okay.
So sometimes you kill yourself accidentally, but that's just sort of the price you pay.
And how much damage does Force of Nature, Savage, how much does that combo do?
Force of Nature, Savage Roar on an empty board is 14 damage. So with Claw, it's 16 damage.
16. Okay, he just Faceless Manipulated my Rag and Tink Mastered my Rag. So I'm now shit out of luck at 8 health. But I can deal 2 damage to minions, and then I
master it to a 1/1. I'm guessing.
Yeah, but I can cleave and then execute.
Yeah, it looks like cleave, execute, heal yourself, and probably hit him with the Fiery War Axe.
Or I can whirlwind, but that won't get rid of the other minion. So yeah, so let's cleave, execute, heal myself. And with 4 more, probably armor up, right? Yeah. Okay. And do I...
Yeah, I mean, just armor up and then...
And do you, knowing that you have the Gorehowl coming, do you still save the 3 armor, or do you go ahead and hit him? Well, no, he's...
No, I would Fiery War Axe his face.
Because he's going to be at lethal with the Gorehowl. Yeah. Okay, cool. Can you tell me what matchups you think this deck is bad against? What heroes you think the Warrior I should not look to play against? I feel like it does...
I was having a little bit of trouble with Shamans.
Okay.
I was having a little bit of trouble with Shamans. Like, they can really protect the board heavily with, like, Feral Spirit. And if they get, like, a Manatide Totem and a Feral Spirit, and I can't keep it in check, they sort of get a few too many cards for me to deal with. Fire Elemental wasn't a big threat, which is actually one of the better cards in their deck. So if you're playing against someone who tends to use their Fire Elementals a little bit aggressively... I think that ends up being okay for you in the end.
Okay. So speaking about...
There were some builds of Priest that were giving you...
No, go ahead. Priest, I agree. I think Priest gave me some trouble too, so I was wondering what your thoughts were on that.
Yeah, it can. It depends. A lot of it depends on the build. Like, some of the builds of Priest aren't going to be an issue at all.
Yeah.
But the ones that I was playing against, they had, like, they didn't really run a high suit of threats of their own, and they were running like 2 Cabal Shadow Priests, which were like always taking my Acolytes of Pain. They weren't bothering to kill those at all. A lot of just a little stuff like that was... I didn't understand the builds, and that was putting me at an extreme disadvantage, of course.
Yeah. So I can put him at 1 health with the Gore Howl, hitting him in the face, and hitting him with the Earthen Ring Farseer. And next turn I would be able to Leroy him unless he brings out a totem. A taunt. But that's also very risky. So in this position, what would you do?
Gosh, I wish that was a Gromish.
Yeah. That would be lethal.
I would probably slam. I think I would lead with slam on one of the 3/3s here.
Yeah.
See what I draw and reevaluate from there.
Okay, because you can then whirlwind.
The shield slam's still a good draw.
Yeah, I got a Tinkmaster. So
yeah, you'll be able to whirlwind the Leroy tokens as well.
Okay, so would you attack the Harvest Golem so that the small Golem comes out, bring out Leroy, whirlwind everything?
I probably would just go ahead and... I mean, that's actually not that bad of a plan.
Because then you get rid of both minions, and it gives me a little bit more durability.
Yeah, I think that's a really good plan, actually.
Okay. Leroy. Kill the guy. Little guy comes out. 1 damage to... Oh yeah, my guy's gonna die. That's right. Too bad. 1 damage to all that. I'm gonna armor up.
You played the Leroy before the Whirlwind, I assumed?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Because I wanted to ensure that my whelps died and his harvest whatever died. And
yeah, I think it's a good play.
And now he's at 5 health, and he kills my Leroy. He brings out Karn, and he brings out Nat Pagal, and he armors up, and I believe that is GG. Okay, so just to sorry, there's so much going so quickly there. Unfortunately, I didn't really get a chance to ask Tarn anything. Tarn, any of your thoughts, please? I'd love to hear your thoughts on anything or everything that was said.
No, I mean, I think the way it was played was really well. Everything that was executed there, I pretty much agreed with 100%. It's really, really tough, as Admirable stated, to deal with as a druid, especially in playing this more like controlling long game druid deck. Getting hit with that 15. And then having to deal with the Ragnaros afterwards. That combo is just pretty brutal. I mean, I fortunately had the cards to deal with those combos, but I wasn't able to stabilize from that hit, that 15 damage, coming in at turn 9. Just wasn't able to stabilize from there. Overall was, a really solid matchup, but I think the way it was played was just paced really well. There could have been a few more things on my end if I had some more healing. But,
yeah.
I even had a decent amount of healing in there. I got 6 healing in, as well as a few cases of armor ups with the attacks. And so, I mean, I think overall, it was played really well. And it just it took a little bit longer. Like, you didn't get the kill around, turn 10, which this deck, the Warrior deck, seems to be able to set up very nicely to do quite often. But it set you up nicely to be able to, get that kill in a few more turns without having to worry about too much coming out on my end.
Yeah, and just to follow up on that, I definitely agree with what Tarn was saying, and it did take a little bit longer because you had these clutch plays, but the pace that was being set by the way that you were playing each card, Admirable, it was really interesting because certainly there are plays I wouldn't have seen, certainly there wasn't concepts that I knew, but overall things, the deck has so many options, but it's sort of this bigger picture idea of how these options play out, what makes sense, what doesn't, where you want to save things, and that's why I love doing the discussion with the game behind it, as a way of sort of allowing the discussion and the game to blend and bleed together, because I feel like you learn so much more. Even though 50 games might have 50 different scenarios, in this one game I learned quite a bit. So Yeah, I thought that was really informative. Really informative.
This game particularly can be highlighted as well because of the pan out of, like, it was going so back and forth until sort of the late game power of the warrior kind of took over. Like, that's really where it starts to shine, is if it stabilizes at such a late point. Its removal package is so much stronger than all of the other classes have access to.
Yeah.
Because you're able to slam and execute things and then play a 7-cost minion. And that's something that other classes don't have access to.
That's brutal.
Aside from Priest. But Priest struggles with the idea of being able to fight early game pressure. And that's actually one of the areas where Warrior shines the most, is against early game pressure. So two things are kind of happening with the way that Warrior's built. It's that its weakness is mid to late pressure, and that's sort of one of the hardest decks to build.
Yeah.
Because in addition to having to draw the right cards, you also have to open very well.
What would you say?
It's got some weaknesses, but it certainly has its strengths.
How does Warrior? How is Warrior so good at dealing with early game pressure? In a sentence, what makes it so strong? What combination? Is it the war axes? Is it like, what is it that like, what do you feel like makes it so good against early game pressure?
Well, Slam is obviously really good because it's 2 damage and it replaces itself a lot of times.
Yeah.
When it doesn't replace itself, it means it's killing a minion, so that's also good news as well. Fiery War Axe gives you 2 swings, and that's important because on turn 2 you get to kill a minion, and then on turn 3 you can do something like play Earthen Ring Farseer and kill a minion, or you can play Acolyte of Pain and kill a minion, or you could even, if say they don't play a minion that's very relevant, you can develop the board or armor up and just save the War Axe. The War Axe, in effect, is giving you not only card advantage, but it's giving you a development advantage as well. It's sort of one of the prime examples of using your life total as a resource. And then, obviously, the synergy with Acolyte of Pain and Cruel Taskmaster and Inner Rage and things like that. Like, Acolyte of Pain coming down on turn 3, and then on turn 4 playing a Cruel Taskmaster, making it a 3-power minion, drawing a card from that, ramming it into their 3-health minion, drawing another card from that. Your cards just sort of replace themselves while they destroy your opponent's cards. So it scales you into your mid-game, where Warrior is probably at its weak point again. Like, it doesn't have a lot of mid-game cards that are very strong. It sort of relies on Cairn and Sylvanas to carry it.
Let me ask you.
And then its late-game potential obviously is extremely strong.
Let me ask you quickly about Slam. I played a game where I slammed my my Acolyte, and again, I guess against an aggressive deck that might not be the best idea. But against a deck like a Druid or late game when you're not getting pressured, was that maybe a bit of a, not a bad move, but maybe not ideal because you want to save slams for executes? Or in that case, getting the double card draw, is that acceptable? Like, how do you feel about that?
It really depends on how it's flowing. Like, I've certainly slammed my own Acolyte of Pain, but you really only need to slam it if you need to dig for things. Like, if you have all the right turns in your hand, there's no reason to use the slam. It sort of fits along the same way as Shield Block. There's no reason to just burn it because you want to draw a card. It should have some sort of forward momentum going with it. You should have some sort of plan in mind, as opposed to just drawing 2 cards because you can draw 2 cards.
Right. So if you've got the Alex Strauss and you need the Gore Howl, or if you have nothing to deal with the next 3 turns, these are all good options. But otherwise, save these for clutch situations. Kind of like the way you save a Hex versus a Paladin. You really never use those Hexes unless it's late game and it's vital for your survival.
Right, you need to be using them for high-profile reasons, as opposed to just clever things like drawing 2 cards. It feels good to draw 2 cards, 2 mana, especially for 1 card, but it's not always the best thing to do, because bearing in mind, if it kills something, that's like drawing a card, except it can also be better because you're getting a mana advantage from it as well.
Well, this is a great. This has been such a serious and in-depth and wonderful talk, but it's a good opportunity to step back now, and I'm going to flip over to an article that's Admirable wrote on iHearthU called. Let me just get it up a little bit higher there. Called "Grinding the Ladder Without Grinding Your Sanity." So we talked very seriously about this game. We all care about the game. We're very competitive. But I think it's important to find a balance. I believe in this in my life as well as in my gaming. And that's Admirable wrote a great article on iHearthU about it. Would you like to talk a little bit about it? It's up on screen here.
Yeah, I noticed that when I first started practicing with people, a lot of the players I started playing with early, I'm not going to name any names, they were getting really frustrated. And I noticed that when other players that I'm on Skype with are getting frustrated while we're playing a game, I started to almost become frustrated. And not at the game, I was just growing frustrated with them. I was like, this game is kind of hindering both of us now. And that's not really the purpose of a game, almost regardless of how good you are.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't imagine there's any basketball players who play basketball because they don't like basketball.
Right.
So I kind of like sat back and thought about it for a long time. And one of the things that I like about this game is that the community is already so much better than, this is going to be a hashtag shots fired moment, than League of Legends.
Ooh, burn!
Every time I queue up for a League of Legends game, it's like, I'm going top. And it's like, well, I'm not going to go top. I'm only going to AD. And this guy's like, AD's all I play, and if I don't get AD, I'm just going to pick an AD anyway. And then this one guy's like, if I don't get to top, I'm just going to feed in mid. And you're like, oh my gosh, it's been 15 seconds and 4 people are fighting.
Right.
And that just doesn't happen in this game, and I love that.
Right.
And I never want that to be the case. So, again, continuing on the trend, people just continue to go frustrated with practice, with ladder,
Mm-hmm.
with luck in the game. And I was like, maybe if you're not enjoying it, you shouldn't be playing.
Yeah.
And then I thought that was a little bit harsh because it's not my business to be telling anyone what they should or shouldn't be doing, as long as it's not hurting anyone else.
Right.
So rather than that, I thought that maybe it was a mindset approach. And I sort of started to break down the differences. And I was like, I think that I not only am better at this game because I have fun, because I practice, but because I have fun.
Right.
So I was like, oh, what a great point to make. And it instantaneously, if you read the article, I mentioned the Texas Renaissance Festival and how hideous my first one was and how wonderful my second one was, and that it was a matter of preparation. And I think that translates not only to things like the Renaissance Festival and to ladder, but to pretty much anything you do.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not going to have fun doing it, it's going to be a miserable experience because it's just sort of the way things work.
Sure.
And then to have fun, you have to prepare for it a lot of times, especially when it's something like an event. So I kind of wrote this up, and I gave it to a couple of my more frustrated friends. And some of them turned around a little bit. And some of them have we've parted and gone separate ways.
Well, I think,
I've gotten a lot of good feedback with it.
I think another good thing to do is if something is frustrating you, to step away, clear your head, and obviously read an article like this, but otherwise just give yourself an opportunity to breathe, move forward, step away, and give yourself some time to come back later and sort of evaluate where you're at, which I think your article recommends. And I know we all get frustrated. It's very common. So I think it's a great article and really worth a read. And I think you have another article coming out in the next week or so people should be on the lookout for that on iHeartU as well. Yeah,
I'll be having a Warrior Guide go up covering 3 iterations of sort of this deck that we were playing and why I play each one in certain circumstance and things to think about when you're playing it.
Well, that's convenient.
I kind of cover I cover 3 different looks versus when your opponents are playing for early game pressure, when your opponents are planning for mid game pressure, and when your opponents are planning for late game pressure. And 3 builds that I've had a lot of success starting with, and I think that other people should start there as well and make adjustments as they see necessary. Cool.
Tarn, any thoughts on the article? Or you had a chance to read it earlier today, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I thought it was a great read, great article. Something everyone should read and consider. And even points out some traps that I fall victim to myself. I play a ton of games, a lot of games that have grinding elements into it. I myself have a pretty high threshold. I like to consider pretty high frustration threshold, but I do reach that limit. Kobe can attest to that himself, and he's seen it come out. But I especially like the way you talk about preparation, because one of my traps, and I think it's a common trap, is you can get a deck. Maybe it's a deck that you found that some pros are playing with, or maybe it's just a meta deck, and you feel you have a strong deck, and okay, so you get this deck built, you go into the ladder, and maybe you start having a bad run of things, and you start questioning things, and things start coming up like, oh my god, the RNG is so bad, things just blah 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 isn't going my way. But the key thing to point out is that I've been working on myself recently is actually, yes, of course those are elements, and of course you're going to have the games where there's nothing you can do, but maybe it's just my preparation. Maybe I didn't look at exactly what this deck can do. Maybe I looked at what this deck was and I just started playing it instead of looking at how this deck is played. Or maybe the way that this deck is played just doesn't fit my personal play style and how I like to play the game. So you could be playing a deck that everyone thinks is strong, you think should be strong, and you're losing and you're getting frustrated and you don't know why. But when you just take a step back and analyze and maybe tweak the deck a little bit to your play style or to what specifically is beating you, and then reevaluate the situation, you'll find yourself usually having a lot more success. And I think that was one of the core points that came across in the article, and I think that's a really strong one to pay attention to.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I agree. And kind of touching further on that point, like the deck building, when you take a build, let's say like a professional's playing, and he's tuning it for his metagame. I don't know if that's sort of for me or what's going on.
Oh, yeah, I'm gonna hold on. I'm gonna bring everything down a little bit, real quick. Give me a sec, and we'll see if we can fix that. Okay, go ahead.
Seems like it's better. Okay, so touching on that, like taking a deck from a pro and kind of sticking it in your metagame, that's not necessarily a bad idea, but it certainly can be a bad idea, and sometimes it is. And when it is, it can become an extremely frustrating experience for two major reasons. The first one is with the cards that you're drawing, you may be actually making fundamentally sound plays, but you may not understand the game plan that was built behind the deck. And that's sort of like where the preparation issue comes in, is because like playing Earthen Farseer on turn 3 when you're at 27 is a totally fine play, but it's not quite as good when you have Molten Giants in your deck. So Molten Giants are really good plays when you have low life, and then Earthen Farseer is a really good play to follow up on that.
Mm-hmm.
And so like you'll see that sort of mistake, and again, you're not making like a huge fundamental error by playing it, you're just making a big game plan error.
Sure.
And that's sort of a preparation point. And people then will sort of kind of call out the RNG in the game, like, well, I never got close to playing my Molten Giants, and then when I did, I got lethal the next turn. And it's sort of an oversight of the idea of something as simple as you could have held 2 Earthen Ring Farseers until you played your Molten Giants. And then not only would you have played your Molten Giants earlier, but you would have been at a high life total post it, and then you also would have had more presence on the board. And it's like a very large compounding effect of these very, very small mistakes. And that's where, like, really where the practice is most important, is understanding your game plan. Because if your game plan isn't sound, that's really where the card play comes in. Because what defines fundamentals? And then it sort of snowballs into a large discussion after that. But yeah, when things are out of your control, like Tinkmaster and Sylvanas and things like that, that's sort of the part where you should be avoiding the most frustration.
Sure.
In actually random things.
Sure. Absolutely.
Right.
Wonderful.
No, I think that's a great point to make, and it led to a little discussion on the article in the comments. Of course, naturally the discussion kind of flows into, well, it's all about the cards that you have. It's all about, if you have specific legendaries and whatnot. And I think, the key there is, yes, of course, legendaries help and cards help to some extent. But the biggest point is what you just touched on. It's about knowing the plan and how that plan works within the deck. You can have all these legendaries, but like you said, if you're playing the legendaries in a way that, isn't necessarily fundamentally wrong, but doesn't fundamentally work with the plan of the deck, then the legendary itself, in effect, isn't really helping you as intended. And so I think that's a point that everyone should be aware of, is that, there's a lot that you can do with a lot of cards as long as you understand the plan of the deck, the direction that you want the deck to go in, and just work around those first. And then, of course, adding in some of these powerhouse cards as you get them, as long as you keep them within the core of the plan for your deck.
Yeah.
Right.
Totally.
The important part is to have a foundation and then build from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, wonderful talk. Really great to have you on. We like to finish off our guests on the show with an interview. Sort of a list of questions I've taken from a show I used to watch when I was growing up, Inside the Actors Studio. James Lipton would ask the Bernard Pivot Bouillon de Couture questionnaire. Just this like highfalutin hysterical thing, but it always made for such interesting answers. So I made a gamer version of this questionnaire. I thought it would be a lot of fun. So I've done it with Doa. You'll be our second guest. So moving into this segment, just like to start off with something very simple. What's your favorite video game system or console?
It's definitely Nintendo 64.
Great. That's great. Well, what's your favorite classic video game?
I'm sort of...
Oh, good. No, please continue.
Yeah, with 64, I grew up with that. And then the game that I grew up with 64 was GoldenEye.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
I
yeah.
had more hours logged of GoldenEye than any game aside from Magic.
Yeah, well, that betrays my age because I played GoldenEye in college, and that was our game when a bunch of us guys lived together. We would get drunk, eat a bunch of food, and just fucking shoot each other in the face. And I mean that in the game, by the way. So just that didn't come out exactly the way I intended it. But you gotta love that golden gun, right? That's such a fun little like one shot, one kill system.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
that's great.
I actually had played so many hours at one point. Do you? I don't know if you're going to remember this or even have ever even heard of this. Blockbuster used to have what's called the Nintendo Power Challenges, where it was sort of like these localized game tournaments to go into a larger tournament. And my friends and I would go to these, and we had played so much GoldenEye that it was a joke. Like when I played GoldenEye with my non-GoldenEye friends, we had to literally play 3 versus 1. And have me like restricted on guns that I can use, and like I can only pick up 1 body armor per life and things like that. And when we went to these power challenges, we got destroyed at every as we didn't play any other games. But then the GoldenEye round would come around, and we would just crush them, and they would be like, "How are you so bad at the rest of these games?"
That's all we play, man. That's awesome. So, unrelated to that game, or any game, whatever you like, what is your least favorite level or boss?
It's Rainbow Road on every single version of Mario Kart ever. It takes way too long. Like one of your friends knows the 6-minute shortcut, and you're just like, really? Like this is. Then there's like one hill where you just drive off accidentally. And you have no idea what's going on. It's probably my least favorite experience with video games ever.
Yeah.
Aside from like the first time I played Ninja Gaiden for I think it was Xbox, was it? Whatever the newer Ninja Gaiden was.
Yeah.
The game was just so beyond impossible for me.
Cool. What character turns you on creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
This was sort of an interesting question to me. Putting the most thought into it that I possibly can, I felt like it was always Mega Man, because I remember playing and thinking, where do they think of these heroes from? And I feel like Mega Man was almost like an inspiration point for a lot of my humor or ideas growing up as a kid, because I would just kind of think of these wild scenarios of how someone became like a flying boar, or like a half giraffe, half gorilla. And just, like that was like the Mega Man inspiration for me. It was almost like they picked 2 random things from a dartboard, and put them together. So I would kind of think about how those 2 things came together, and then come up with these weird, crazy backstories. And it's sort of weird to think about it, but I feel like Mega Man legitimately inspired a lot of that thought process.
That's really cool. That's really cool. What turns you off?
Like needles and I'm kidding.
I'm not a fan.
You mean like in terms of video games? I'm assuming it's on the same level.
Sure. Whatever, man. Whatever your heart's desire. What turns you off? Doesn't matter.
Just poor personalities. I hate negativity, and I hate excuses and that sort of thing. It's just never anything I like to hear. Like anything I've ever been good at, I worked hard for, and I think that anyone can achieve similar levels if they just want to do it. And if you don't want to do something, just don't do it.
Yeah, it's
That's
true.
really what it boils down, except for paying your bills. Always pay your bills.
It's great. Malcolm Gladwell wrote a lot of wonderful books. His latest was Outliers, and he talked about all these geniuses, and every one of these geniuses, in every case, like Mozart, the Beatles, in every case, you could trace back 10,000 hours of committed, diligent learning, and that's how they became as good as they were. And he's kind of demystified this idea of a natural, and it had nothing to do with that. It had to do with passion and effort, and I mean, I just agree with you 100% on that, and him.
Yeah, I read that book. I think it's a really good book. It sort of changed my outlook on a lot of things. Blink, I don't know if you read Blink by him also.
For sure.
That's a good book. And what I started to realize when that happened is I cut a lot of negative people out of my life. And this sort of sounds weird, but like I cut a lot of negativity out of my life of people who sort of gave me flack for things that I wanted to do and things that I was passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
And what I realized is with things like technology advancing in the world and like, for instance, the way that entertainment's brought to you, like how many people watched Twitch 10 years ago? Well, 0.
Right.
But now I think it was like they published a stat. It was like 63 billion minutes of Twitch were watched last year.
It's incredible.
It's insanity, like how different it is. And so I kind of cut out the negativity of people who were like, you shouldn't be doing that because, and then some sort of very traditionalist style view.
Mm-hmm.
And I just disagree with it. I think you should just do what you're passionate about as long as it's like a good thing. Like as long as you're not hurting people doing it, you should be doing it. And Outliers really changed my outlook on that. I was like, so if I practice hard enough, I can do whatever I want.
Yeah.
And
do it.
Completely
and do it.
Took my life in
It's
a way.
great. No, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
That idea of dedicated practice is sort of where I came up with my strategy, and it culminated for me in StarCraft, a game I will never be, grandmaster in or anything like that, but the learning process, knowing I could go years and years and years and get beaten and those times where you get crushed so badly, and it just, instead of the frustration and rage, or at least after it subsides, you go back to the drawing board. And it's these types of games, Hearthstone, the things that really get me going, and it's kind of the beginning and sort of the seed of where this show and a lot of what I'm interested in came from. So it's really cool that these things have sort of connected, and I know Tarn and I have talked about stuff like this a lot, and feels it's the same way about practice and grinding and learning and all that stuff.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. I think the term dedicated in front of practice also is an important thing to measure, and that you have to actually be practicing, not just like doing it.
Yeah. What sound effect or phrase do you love?
The Mario jump, the one from 64, the way he has the triple sound, and he's
Okay.
like the wah, woohoo, wahoo. That one.
That's great.
That one's always been a great one for me.
What sound effect or phrase do you hate?
I hate when I have Nat Pagel on the board and I press the end turn button and I don't see his little lightning bolt light up.
Yeah.
And instead you just hear like the flick of their card going to their hand. I'm like, son of a...
That's great. That's great. What?
I can attest to that
Actually,
one.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I came up with a drinking game.
My knight's a lazy bastard.
Oh yeah, he falls asleep at the wheel constantly for me. I came up last night. I played like 2 games off stream. I came up with a drinking game. It's every time Nat Pagel draws you a card, you take a drink, and by the end of the night, you're as sober as can be.
That's great. That's so good. Wonderful. You should try the Manatide Totem. It's a slightly higher percentage. What sound effect or what character would you like to be from a game?
Now, despite all my hate of him, Nat Pagel.
Yeah.
He kind of sits still and he fishes and he drinks all day.
Yeah, he's chilling.
And I can wait and fish all day.
I remember watching your stream, and it was like 3 or 4 in a row. You didn't get Nat, and you were like talking about it and making fun of it, and the stream was like all laughing and stuff. And somebody wrote in your stream chat like, I can just sit and wait all day, and you like lost it because you realized Nat was just being Nat to you, man. You're just gonna wait. It's just gonna happen.
Yeah, that's Nat Pagel.
That's him. What character would you not like to be?
I would hate to be like Lara Croft, and like instantaneously, when I think about that. People are like, "Oh, you don't want to be a woman, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, of course that's your attitude." I don't think I could handle that much attention from people.
It's hard.
I mean, think about how much attention Lara Croft gets. I just I can't handle that. I don't just leave me alone for like a day.
Well, take it
feels like.
Take it up a notch. Angelina Jolie played Lara Croft. She must get 10,000 times the attention. It must be really brutal. But she is gorgeous, and
I think she wants the attention though.
Yeah, she does. She does. So be it. Can't be too hard to be her. What is your favorite curse word?
Fuck.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good
Done.
one. Done and done.
Next one. It doesn't matter where you are. You could be like at an airport, like in Tibet, and like the airline forgot one of your bags, and like she's trying to communicate with you, and like you don't speak the same language, and like you get the idea that your bag is gone. You just go fuck. She understands exactly what you're feeling.
Cool.
At any point in the world, everyone understands that word.
Nice. And if heaven exists, what games would you like to have waiting for you when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Now, a lot of people hear me complain about one thing that I don't like, and it's this game called RL. It keeps me from doing a lot of stuff online that I want to do more. Okay. Now, that being said, when I get to the pearly gates, I really hope RL is waiting for me.
Cool.
I'd like to go back to playing RL at that point.
So good. So good.
Nice. Thanks very much. We're going to do...
Respawn.
Yeah. We're going to do one...
Respawn points.
We're going to do one bonus question from chat, because I like it. If life were an RPG, what stat would you max first and why? Thanks for that, chat.
Charisma.
Scuba Dude.
Always charisma.
Max out charisma.
Always max charisma.
Well, if you play...
You can make friends. It doesn't matter like how bad or good someone is. If you can get your charisma maxed, you can do anything.
Sure.
I remember I used to play D&D borderline religiously with a bunch of friends of mine. He had some character. I'm trying to remember exactly what it was. His charisma was out of control, though. So he walks into the wrong building, which happens to be like this high lord's home, and just like talks his way out of it and sits down and has dinner with them and has a drink, and then like ends up getting some sort of quest from it because he accidentally walked into the wrong house. And I was like, this is so like almost true to things that could happen in real life.
Yeah.
Like picture like a very charismatic, beautiful woman. She just gets done whatever she wants.
It's true.
And then it kind of fits the same way with men. Like picture James Bond. That guy got everything done exactly how he wanted to. It was because of his charisma.
At least some of it.
And if you watch the movies as of late, that sort of like reflects the movies as of late. Like Skyfall, spoiler alert, he's not like the most athletic person in the world. But he sort of gets things done just because people like James Bond.
Yeah.
So the most important thing is like a very good attitude and a very sharp mind will go a long way.
Well, then you should be a sorcerer, because when you max out a sorcerer on charisma, you get bonuses on pretty much everything.
Oh, yeah. I'd love to be a wizard.
I just finished up a D&D campaign with my buddies about a week ago. Oh, no, a sorcerer is better than a wizard. A wizard needs intelligence. Sorcerer needs charisma.
Oh, gosh. How could of all the people to forget that, of course it's me.
It happens.
Just go mind blank.
No worries. Good stuff. Cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. Tarn and I are going to do a little bit more custom prep for this tournament. But this has been an incredibly fun experience, but like my mind's blown. I'm going to go and rewatch this and try to pick up all the stuff I didn't quite have a chance to grasp because I was hosting and things were moving so fast. But, you know, it's been a good show when I know I can go back and rewatch and learn even more. So it's been great to have you on. And I look forward to having you on again in the future and future articles, which you guys can find on iHeartU. And once again, you can find him on Twitch, twitch.tv/That's Admirable. Would you like to say anything before we sign off?
Thanks for having me. I had a lot of fun. Glad to meet Tarn, and And Kobayashi, look forward to doing some battle with you on ladder, perhaps.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
If not now, in the future.
Definitely.
Yeah, I'd love to be back.
Great. Tarn, anything? Any final words for our guest?
No, that sums it up well. It was really nice having you on. Appreciate you having it on, coming on. I think it just was awesome. You provided really awesome insights, and that's just what we're looking for this show. And so I think that was perfect. That was awesome, and we can't thank you enough. Thank you a lot.
Well, I think that's a good opportunity right there to wrap it up. So I will say just a few kind words. Once again, thank you. That's Admirable for coming on the show. It was insightful, a great learning experience, and a lot of fun to have you on. Really enjoyed both your knowledge and your personality. I want to say thank you to Tarn, my co-host. It's always great to have you, and it was a lot of fun this week. And once again, you've done a stellar job, and I'm excited for our future shows as we develop, and you're going to get to look at my terrible play and make fun of me, so I'm sure you're looking forward to that.
No, man, be positive. Be positive.
I know.
I'm just
messing around.
I need a new mouse, right? I need you to win me a new mouse. So,
and I want to say,
no,
go ahead.
A great show. Mm-hmm. Again, huge thanks to our guest. That's Admirable. It was a lot of fun. Great segment. Hope to have him on again in the future. And once again, I haven't been fired, so hopefully I'll be back again next week. But other than that, thank everyone for tuning in. It was a really fun night, and see you guys next week.
Yeah. Thank you to everyone at iHeartU and Simpatico, all the great work that those guys do. And it's a great site. Check it out. And like I said, I'll be in this tournament this Saturday. And you can find the information on Hearthstone Players. And it's the first Invitational tournament. This Saturday, February 1st, 1 p.m. EST, Eastern Standard Time. And I will be streaming that live with a delay on my stream, twitch.tv/KobayashiMaru. As well, next week I believe we're going to go over and analyze my play if all goes according to plan. And I believe that does it. Thank you all for watching. We look forward to having more wonderful episodes. And anybody mind if I roll?